This is the Retirement Solution Podcast with financial advisor John Hicks, founder of J. Hagan Capital.
There are so many things that we just have in our mind and we assume that they're correct because we've heard them 100,000 times. We got to get rid of all those myths. If you've done a great job saving, you'd be surprised what you can accomplish when you use the right strategies. Most people just aren't aware of them.
You've worked hard your whole life to earn and save. Now you need a plan to make that money work hard for you.
So people that have sacrificed opportunities to spend money, they sacrificed by putting the money in that 401k. They've sacrificed by putting that money in a 529 college plan for their grandkids. Those types of sacrifices should go rewarded in the long run.
John is here to help you find solutions for your retirement.
In the meantime, 'tis Sunday morning.
Sunday.
Have we talked about Sunday scaries before? Do you
Sunday scaries? There's like the comics, only scary?
No, it's that. It's those feels that you get, particularly like end of day on Sunday, knowing that Monday is. It's like the Friday feels, you know, that Friday happiness you feel, and then the Sunday scaries with the come down of the weekend being over and getting back into the real life things that happen on Monday morning.
Sometimes, I think that sometimes that happens to all of us. I know that.
Of course it does.
To me, it's probably more along the lines of, scary wouldn't be my word.
Yeah.
It's kind of like drainage. It's just say I just get drained. It's like, because around 3 o'clock, you know, after church, after everything on Sunday, I realize, man, my kids got to get up tomorrow and do school, and then we get soccer again, and we get this. And this is usually after coming back from a soccer event that's been out of town, where I haven't slept in my own bed for a couple days anyway. And I'm thinking, man, I got to get these gremlins up at 6:30 in the morning, and then I got to work out, and then I've got that. I get that. I think we all do.
It's real.
Even my retired clients, they say, well, now that every day is a Saturday except for that one Sunday, they say it's a little different. But still, there's that feeling of you've got to do something the next day that you haven't had to do for a couple of days.
Well, hopefully this Sunday in particular is not triggering for anybody that has waited to the very last minute to get their tax filings in, because
that's right.
Tis the season.
We've only got a couple days left. So if you haven't done them yet, I would get that extension filed, guys. Because it's Tuesday, right? Tuesday this year?
Yeah, because I guess
April 18th.
If the 15th falls on like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they push it back till, I don't know how that
It makes no sense.
Right, nothing
It
does.
makes no sense whatsoever, but that's okay. We'll enjoy the extra couple days. That's perfectly fine.
We will take the time when given to us. I say so on behalf of all the procrastinators unite. I'm here with you. I'm the leader of this club, John. But let's talk not so much about what happens annually for us in our taxes and our tax filings. I want to ask you about bigger picture stuff when it comes to what we need to keep in mind, because there are certain parts of the new Secure Act 2.0 that are taking effect this year.
They are.
One is the age to start making required minimum distributions, your RMDs. That's now 73.
That's right.
Financial advisor Aaron Ulrich was telling Yahoo Finance about the other.
So if you mess up your required minimum distribution, so you have to take a little percentage out of that bucket. If you mess that up, in the past, it was very punitive, a 50% penalty if you made a mistake with that. Well, they've done the right thing, in my opinion, and they've backed off that penalty. So they've reduced it. I think in a lot of cases, it might be even 25. And they've even expanded the ways that you can kind of get a get out of jail free card. And if you fix the mistake quickly, they're not going to enforce that penalty.
So thinking about our RMDs, because I do feel that it is confusing, that territory of understanding what we need to do, how we need to do it.
Sure.
How do you help folks figure out their RMDs so they don't have to worry about things like penalties, begging the IRS for forgiveness, etc.?
I mean, for most of us, to be honest, RMDs are not as big of a deal if we understand what they are.
Okay.
And so, Heather, I think a lot of folks, you know, and I say the word RMD like everyone should know. Yeah. It is amazing to me that there are so many different ways to say this. So required minimum distribution happens on our tax deferred accounts. So like our IRAs and our 401ks once we get to a certain age. And what this is, guys, is because we've put our money in those accounts for all these years, and the government hasn't gotten some tax money from us. And they need it. They need it now more than they ever have in the past. My opinion is they're going to need even more later. But what they've done with the Secure Act is they've changed things a little bit. So the good news is if you haven't had to take an RMD up until now, you don't have to do it until age 73, which is a little bit better for some people. Now, what I have found, though, Heather, is that this ends up creating a bit of a tax problem for a lot of folks. If we've done a good job saving, chances are those RMDs in the future are going to cause us to continue to pay more and more and more dollars, not only in taxation, but we may be paying more and more marginal taxes every few years if we've done a good job saving. So the good news about this law is that we don't have to pull money out yet. The bad news about this law is that they're making a tax trap for us. Oh, don't you love it? The government giveth, and then the government taketh away. Because I've had a lot of clients, Heather, that have said, hey, John, it's great. I don't have to take any money out yet. But what unfortunately we're doing then, Heather, is we might be creating a huge tax trap that is going to force us into higher tax rates in the future. So I don't know that this is a good thing for everyone. And so when you really think about, okay, what is your money meant to do? If you want that money in those IRAs and 401ks, if you want to spend that money, if you want to use that money for income, then there's probably one group of strategies that's better for you. Now, if you're in another camp, Heather, and let's say that you don't need all this money. You've saved $3, $4, $5 million in tax deferred accounts, and you don't think you're going to spend it all. Well, then unfortunately, those required minimum distributions in the new tax code might be very prohibitive for you because it may make you pay many more thousands, if not 10,000s or even hundreds of thousands of dollars more in taxation by making that RMD later, which is kind of crazy. So what I would say is if you don't have a current tax strategy on how you're either going to pay less taxes today or less taxes over the course of your retirement, guys, you're already behind the 8 ball. You need to get a tax strategy now. And it doesn't matter to me if you want to pay less taxes now or later, but you have to be efficient. Because if you're just trying to coast through the situation, the government is going to make it very difficult for you to get the majority of your money back. They're going to have a roadblock, or they're going to do what they did just last year, which is causing the change now. They're going to change the rules on us. And we don't yet know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars that could cost us. So if you don't have a tax strategy, get one yesterday. I mean, I can't even say it any different. Before those people in Congress change it again, which we know they will at some point.
And they have the ability to do it on a dime. All right, but I want to keep going a little bit on our options while we're on the subject of this time of year and our tax options, because everything you were just pointing out brings back to the question of, okay, well, what can we control? Because taxes are at historic lows right now. And as you're pointing out, things can change at any time. So U.S. News and World Report was saying that this makes for a good argument and opportunity to consider converting a traditional individual retirement account into a Roth IRA. So how does that all break down, John?
Yeah, so this is one of those things where you really want to run the math. It's not 50-50. It's probably 75% are going to be in a better position if they convert a portion of their money to a Roth IRA.
Okay.
Now, for 25% of us, though, guys, it's not the right move. As a matter of fact, you will lose money in the long run.
Okay.
So you really have to understand, okay, what do you want to accomplish? But right now, the article was correct. This is probably the lowest tax environment that we will see for the rest of our lives. Very honestly, that's what I think it is. And if you look at the way that our government is spending money and needing more money, and then on top of that, the number of baby boomers that are retiring and need the Social Security. They need the Medicare, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have more expenditures than ever before. I think tax rates go nowhere but further up from here. So you might want to convert because you're going to be at a lower tax rate in the future, okay? You might also want to convert because if you had some really good companies that you really like, but they're beating the snot out of right now, this might be a good time to do what they call a journaling of those stocks, which, Heather, means that you just take that. I'm just going to make this up. Let's say you have a Microsoft stock that's beaten up. You can journal that stock right into a Roth, so you're still holding that position. You're going to pay taxes on moving it, but then if Microsoft goes through the roof over the next 10 years, you will not pay any extra taxes on all that future growth. So that's another thing we can do. So basically take advantage of some of those losers that you still have faith in. Just pay a lower tax to convert them now. And this is probably the biggest one for great savers who've had very successful children. The one thing you have to understand is what tax rate are you in? If you're in the 12 or 22% tax bracket, that's one thing. But if your kids are successful, they're business people, they're engineers, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they own their own businesses, and they're in a higher tax bracket, it might make more sense to convert money to a tax-free account at your lower tax rate. Because if they inherit that money, they're going to have to pay potentially much higher taxes for that. As a matter of fact, it reminds me of a lady I talked to a couple months ago. And she said, John, I've done a great job saving. I've got $4 million in my accounts.
Nice.
There's no way I'm ever going to need this.
Right.
And I was like, well, great. Do you want to gift some to your kids? And she said, my kids do great. One's a neurosurgeon and the other owns a small business in Texas that has done great.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So what tax bracket are they in? And she goes, well, she knew how much money they made. And I was like, oh my goodness, based on where they live in their tax brackets. If she had done nothing, her kids would potentially pay as much as $1.7 million in taxes on inheriting that money.
Jeez.
Which she just thought was staggering, just astronomical. So what we did is we looked through a bunch of different strategies, and what we found is there were a couple ways where we could potentially save her children over $880,000 of money that was otherwise going to go to the government.
Wow.
Now, she liked that idea obviously a lot better, as most of us would.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why we did that. So the first reason is that you might be in a lower tax bracket now. The second reason is you may have a good company that you want to hold on to, but you want the growth to be tax-free. And the third reason is if you've done an awesome job saving and you have successful kids, pay less taxes now so they won't have to give half of it potentially to Uncle Sam in the future. 3 great reasons to consider conversions.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Solution Podcast with John Hicks. Begin the conversation about your savings plan with John and the team at J. Hagan Capital by visiting retirementsolutionradio.com. Be sure to listen to John's radio show, The Retirement Solution, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sundays at 9 a.m. on News Radio 840 WHAS.
J. Hagan Capital Inc. is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Hagan Capital Inc. is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. J. Hagan Capital Inc. is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. It does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Jonathan Hicks, insurance license number 548962.